Let's start with the game that College Game Day is going to be at. Let's start with number 3 Texas, 7.5-point favorite against number 10 Michigan. The over/under I have for this one is 1.5 Michigan quarterbacks played. Alex Orji didn't start for Michigan, which was weird. Very, very weird. Davis Warren ends up starting for Michigan. Came as a bit of a surprise for those of us who expected Sharon Moore to just kind of be operating this run-heavy offense. And Michigan instead found itself in a 6-point game with 6 minutes left against Fresno State. Not great for the defending champs. Not full-on 2020 LSU, but sorry, that was rude. That, you know what? I take that. Could we? I need to bleep that out.
Let me talk about Florida. How come I got to talk about LSU? We should have switched us too. Anyway.
Well, I'm sorry. Kick a man while he's down. You got COVID. You just got back from Vegas. That was uncalled for. I'm calling myself out. That was unnecessary. Didn't mean to go there. But this is a very unsettled quarterback situation, it looks like, in Ann Arbor. I don't think Michigan was just trying to keep it close to the vest to throw Texas off the scent. So once again, stop me if you've heard this before, but Texas is traveling in week 2 to face a top 10 team that's still trying to see what they have at quarterback. Crazy.
Right.
Last time worked out.
First off, I would think that if your name is Orgy, a committee approach is probably not a great move. Anyway.
Well, that was RG3 for the top rope.
The other side of it is that, part of us wants to be like, well, this is all just gamesmanship. This is all just game. But Alabama sure as heck did start Tyler Buckner against USF last year. It kind of handicapped, handcuffed Milroe too. So
that was after the Texas game, though. After the Texas.
No, I know. I'm just saying that they were really truly not sure who their quarterback was. It was not some weird gamesmanship thing. So maybe that's a thing that does still happen because we have seen it now too as 2 big programs.
This is a family-friendly show, man. That's good. This is a dream scenario for this Texas defense. I really think it is. They're going to do everything in their power to confuse Michigan when it has to throw the football. A Michigan offense that averaged 4.5 yards per pass attempt. What's going to be interesting for me is if these Texas receivers, the depth that Sark has been talking about in the offseason, if we see that surface, because just mark it down. Will Johnson, number 1 player in college football, 25. That guy's going to lock down somebody on the outside. Probably going to be Isaiah Bond more times than not. Maybe it's Golden sometimes. Sark likes to be able to work those guys in at least a handful of snaps in the slot. So they'll move them around a little bit. It won't be somebody exclusively on the outside, but I would bet on Will Johnson winning that matchup. These young Texas receivers, Jonte Cook, Ryan Wingo, can they step up? Because you have to. These are the types of moments where you need those role players, those secondary options to be extremely good. And that's how you win tough games on the road. I don't think that you're going to want to run the ball against Mason Graham and that Michigan defensive line. All the questions we have about who Michigan is in this new era, I don't really question how good their defensive line is. I think it's tremendous. I think you'd rather trust Quinn Ewers in a big-time spot to be able to make the right decisions, which he has shown he is capable of doing in these big-time games. I thought it was interesting that Ewers threw the ball 27 times in the opener. That was a lot for a guy that got an early shower in the third quarter, middle of the third quarter, and they still threw the ball 27 times. Maybe it kind of speaks to the fact that they don't want to run the football a ton in spots that they don't have to because of that running back depth. It's, trying not to get those guys hurt and have an extra tread on, take some of the tread off of those tires. But maybe it's because they realized they needed to get these young receivers on the same page as Quinn Ewers. You're trying to be able to do that in a setting like that against Colorado State. I think Texas gets a lead in the second half of this one and forces Michigan into some obvious passing situations that it's not ready for yet. And so I'm going to go with a little bit of a repeat of last year of what Texas did at Bama. I'm going to say that Texas wins this game by double digits, wins by 10, 27-17. Texas holds on to that top 3 ranking.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super big on Texas here. Of course, we went to the sports book, and one of my I actually did really good on Saturday. Not so much on Sunday. I was really predicting that blowout or the shootout I was talking about. But the one of the few actually did get wrong was the Michigan over. And I thought that Sharon Moore was going to come out and really try to send a message that it wasn't all Jim Harbaugh.
What was the over for that game? If you
it was high, man. I don't remember, but it was one of those. Okay. It wasn't super duper high to the point where I was like, oh, they can make it super high and make it one of these 70-0 games if he wants to do that. I guess he wanted to and could not. But yeah, that's the thing is I think the eyes of the world were on them with, that kind of documentary thing that just come out about stallions and all that. So they had every reason to come out and prove everyone wrong, and they couldn't do it against an inferior team. It might be the coaching thing, it might be whatever, but it's hard to tell. And against Texas, modern Texas, at least this year's Texas is not, where you want to figure that out. I got to be careful because every other year pretty much, but last year was a great time to figure stuff out against Texas. But yeah, I actually think that Texas is a much more like just a unit that is more together. They have that continuity with their head coach, their quarterback, all that. So yeah, this was a game that I think we had circled in the early season, and already I'm starting to be worried about Michigan being exactly what, the inner hater in me, the inner SEC homer, being like, well, that was just cheating. There wasn't nothing special about that Michigan team. This looks like the Michigan team that I thought Michigan was last year without Connor Stalions.
To me, I think we're going to talk about a lot probably this year about playoff elimination games.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to be part of this conversation?
FSU, you are eliminated.
FSU and Boston College, that was a playoff elimination
game. It was a playoff elimination game,
Big
guys.
Time.
I hate to break it to you.
Boston College, you're still alive. I think this is a national championship contending elimination game because it's not so much that the loser of this game cannot win a national championship. To me, I think it will send a message that if you can't win this type of game, you're probably not going to be able to compete at that level. Okay, so you still might see both of these teams in the college football playoff. But I'm saying that if you're Texas and you can't take advantage of this type of inexperience, yes, in a hostile atmosphere on the road, but you're a touchdown favorite for a reason. It's because you're the better football team. You're the more proven football team. You're established. To me, if we see Texas's weaknesses and if Michigan wins this football game as a touchdown underdog at home with all of this turnover, that's going to say, Texas, you are not ready to compete at that level when it comes time for the college football playoff because Texas has the experience. They should be the team that's going out there and showing us what their identity is in this early going. It's not to say that they can't get better, but to me, this is really indicative of who Texas should be during this season because you know that Michigan can take things away. And what do you do in those moments? What do you do? Like, are your receivers dropping passes left and right? Do you have a running back room where it's just like, there's one guy who's kind of out there, but he can't really pass protect, and yours is getting kind of beat up by that defensive line. Like, this will be a game in which you can see Texas's weaknesses if they are there, and if they are weaknesses that can prevent you from winning a title. Michigan wins this football game, we're having a much different conversation about their trajectory and about their title defense season, what it's going to look like competing in the Big Ten. I will be unbelievably impressed if Sherrone Moore wins against a Texas team that, quite frankly, is better. If they're playing on a neutral site, Texas is a double-digit favorite. They are. They absolutely are. And I do think that Michigan is going to have some of these moments where maybe it's smash mouth football, testing that Texas defensive line early in the post-Sweat Murphy era. But give me the Longhorns, man. Give me the Longhorns to make kind of a statement in week 2.
Yeah, I think too, really quick on that, like, this is kind of a nightmare coaching matchup, which is that Sarkisian, has always been a pretty brash guy. And that's how we won at Alabama last year. And that was whenever we did that preview, I was talking about, whoever kind of, has the most gumption, I'll say it that way, whoever, shows that the most. And Quinn Ewers went in there and that offense went in there and pushed Alabama around. And that's what they had to do to win on the road. And it was really wild to see that, and it made us think that it showed Alabama's flaws, and it showed how long the road was ahead. And they ended up getting there, and it was even more impressive for it. But point being, this is a nightmare coach to have to come to your house after all the stuff that's swirling around, after not really looking, great last week, because the game, remember, that Moore was given credit for was that Penn State game where they handed the ball off 30 plus times. You're not going to do that against Texas. In fact, if you try that against Texas, you're going to lose expeditiously. You might as well not show up. Meanwhile, on the other side, we have Quinn Ewers, who has gone through 3 different extreme makeovers. He's got his credit score. He's figured out everything. And so point being, both of these guys know exactly who and what they are and what their goal is. And it feels like Michigan is a little bit scattered. And Michigan is, it's weird because Michigan's the defending national champion, but it's Texas has that kind of swagger right now. They have they will be more confident going into Ann Arbor, which is a crazy, crazy thing to see, because that's the thing about a guy like Harbaugh. He's such a cult of personality figure. I hate to keep talking about my team, but that's kind of how Coach O was, right? Where he took all the shine off of the players because people were asking questions about him. They were like, oh, what do you do? And when you have a guy like that, he's the picture of confidence because he lives outside of society's norms. You watch Jim Harbaugh over there just chugging a gallon of milk, and you're like, this guy knows something everybody else doesn't. And so you can kind of believe in that guy because you're like, it seems like he's got something going on up there. Morris just kind of feels like a regular nice dude. Seems honestly too well adjusted to be a crazy football coach.
I wanted to see this game last year, and I'm kind of bummed that we didn't. I still think Michigan, looking back on it with how Michigan rose to the challenge in the Rose Bowl, and obviously the way that they asserted their dominance in the national championship against Washington, I still found myself wanting to see what it would have looked like of Ewers as an underdog. And he's not an underdog in this game according to the odds makers or anything like that. But every time it's felt like, oh man, so much pressure on Quinn Ewers in this spot, he's kind of been able to rise to the occasion. Now Oklahoma fans are saying, hey, what about the Red River rivalry, a game in which he didn't come out on the winning end last year, he did the year before. But for the most part, man, when it's spotlight time, that's when I think Ewers is particularly good. I mean, last year in the Big 12 championship was a good example of that, albeit against an Oklahoma State defense that struggled a lot. So I do think Texas wins this game on the road, and they make their first statement as an SEC team, not necessarily an SEC play.